Finding a fun daily driver for under $20,000 is more difficult now than ever. The used cars that were once fun and affordable choices have shot up in price. But that's where this comes in.
The E90 335i is one of my favorite cars at this price point. It's new enough that it hasn't experienced the same price hike as the older BMWs, but old enough that it's still bottomed out in value.
While earlier generations of 3 Series offer absolute purity and later ones offer speed and technology, the E90 is a balance of both. The E90s blend together some of the traits that make those classics so lovable, with the performance and convenience that we've gotten used to from modern cars.
That's all well and good on paper, but let's take it for a drive and see if this is an actual performance bargain or just another cheap luxury car. Now let's get some E90 basics out of the way off the bat. My favorite years are the 2010s and 2011s because those are the facelifted models with the updated interior and exterior. The 2010 has the older twin-turbo N54, and 2011s, like this car, have the N55 twin-scroll single-turbo inline-six. Now a comparison between those two engines could be a video unto itself. So I'll put it this way. I'm kind of a sucker for the way the N55 sounds, so I'm kind of partial to it. And also the N55s tend to be a little bit less finicky than the N54. But with all that said, if you want to build a big power car, the N54 is really the place to start. They hold power just quite a bit better than the N55s. And honestly, the N55 is part of what makes this 2011 feel so modern. It was used all the way until 2016 when it was replaced by the B58. Now it obviously has less power than the updated N55s or certainly the B58, but it does a pretty good impersonation or impression of those more modern engines. The power band is similar, the way it sounds is similar, and it just gives you kind of that modern turbo BMW feel for a lot less money. With that twin-scroll turbo, the power band is so low that you have usable power from like 1500 RPM. And it makes cruising around town and just using the car every day so enjoyable because you're not having to wind it out and beat the snot out of it to pass somebody on the highway or get up to speed. I mean, you can shift this thing at like 2500 RPM all day long and you're going at a decent clip while you're doing it. Now this is a 335i XDrive, so this is the all-wheel drive one. It's a electronically controlled all-wheel drive system, kind of unlike the fully mechanical Quattro systems in the Audis. And honestly, on the street, I've been totally fine with it. I think it puts down the power nicely. It doesn't really impede your handling all that much. On the track, I definitely noticed both the weight and the all-wheel drive system's tendency to send too much power to the front when you're coming out of a corner. If you went to the power or even early at all on track, it would just start to push the nose out. And so I was a little disappointed with that. Given that it's a fully electronically controlled system, I feel like it could have been tuned a bit more aggressively, sending power to the back, just to try to minimize some of that understeer that these cars have. Now it definitely feels bigger and heavier than an E46. There's really no way around that, especially this all-wheel drive car. Where the E46s feel more like true sports sedans, the E90s feel a bit more like a big sporty GT car. But with that, a facelifted, well-optioned E90 like this still feels like a solid luxury car, especially inside. As with any car, colors, condition, options are all going to play a huge role here. With that said, this car has the upgraded Dakota leather, replacing the leatherette, and an option that I probably wouldn't buy one of these without anymore, the sport seats. These are some of my favorite BMW seats. With lumbar adjustment and inflatable bolsters, they're comfortable and hold you in beautifully when driving quickly. I will say this though, word of warning, they are pretty tight even with the bolsters deflated completely. I've had a couple of friends in the car tell me that they're kind of snug. So you're gonna wanna sit in the car first. If it has the sports seats, make sure that it's comfortable for you. It has a relatively simple to use and responsive iteration of iDrive. It's not cutting edge, it's not modern, but it skips through my songs through Bluetooth, which is really all that I want from one of these systems. And that brings me into my next point, and I can't even believe that I have to praise this, but physical controls for basically all of the car's systems. Given the prevalence of touchscreens and haptic buttons in modern cars, the physical controls are a breath of fresh air in the E90. With Bluetooth, a great sound system, heated seats and steering wheel, this is a phone mount away from having every modern amenity that I care to have. A well-optioned one that's in good condition still feels like a $40,000 or $50,000 car inside, so you're getting a lot of value for money here. So it's around 3,850 pounds, I believe. It's quite a bit more than the rear-wheel drive car. And it pushes this even further towards being more of a GT car, like a sporty GT sedan, than a sports sedan inherently. So like, I had a 325xi, an E46, and that car weighed 3,200 pounds with the stick. So despite being all-wheel drive and having an inline-six, it was still a lightweight car. This is not that. So if you're looking for a pure, lightweight, kind of sporty driving experience, this is capable, but it is not even attempting to be a sports car at this point. This all-wheel drive car is just too heavy, and dynamically, once you start to get close to that limit handling, it's not fantastic. So it really relegates the all-wheel drive cars to being daily drivers, everyday usage kind of cars, rather than something that you're going to try to turn into something else. Unless you're just going to make a big power like highway racer or something. But if you're looking to make kind of a back road or track carving E90 335i, start with a rear-wheel drive car. But again, that's only when you start to really get to the limit, and the limits are high. With not exceptionally wide tires, they're 245s all the way around, the level of grip is really high. I was so impressed with it when I took it out on track for one session, and I just wanted to see how it would do, and it really impressed me. It would push to understeer because of the all-wheel drive and the weight if you were a little bit too overzealous with the power mid-corner, but it was fast. The handling was actually pretty neutral, pretty balanced, as long as you kept your throttle in check and didn't make it push. It was impressive. I mean, it was, in one session, it was 4 seconds off of what I did in the Z. And the Z is this little lightweight modified sports car. So definitely impressive. Would I recommend doing it? No, not so much. These first gen N55s, which I conveniently forgot this until after I got off the track, have oil starvation issues. So mid-corner, loaded up with a lot of G's. I'm sure these tires probably can't produce that much grip. You could run into oil starvation issues. So I'm not I'm not thrilled about the prospect of that. So I probably won't be tracking this car again, but regardless, it gave me a great opportunity to see what it was like at the limit. And in some ways I was really impressed, and in some ways it was exactly as I expected. That pushiness, the understeer, I was expecting that. However, the quickness of it and the capability and the kind of sure-footedness of it at speed on a track was impressive. This is a bone stock 335i, and it did quite well. But as a street car, I love this thing. I mean, it's comfortable, it's luxurious, and the ride, although it's kind of soft, and it was almost comical on track because you could just kind of see it wallowing around almost, it'll kind of lean over, then settle and dig into the corner, and for a stock suspension setup, and a stock suspension setup that is so comfortable and cushy on the street, it's a good balance, I would say. Like, if you're gonna use your car every day, it's nice to have it comfortable. You go to use it in an urban like environment, a city, a town with bad roads, and this thing just soaks up the bumps like nothing. It is not stiff. And yet when you go to drive it quickly, it's still fun. Some of its downsides in terms of limit handling can easily be forgiven if you're using it as an everyday car, as a daily. And I mean, this is like the quintessential daily driver for me. All-wheel drive, relatively sporty, sounds nice, great interior. It checks all the boxes for me personally. Now, I got this one for $13,000 with 90,000 miles on it. It's modern enough to have most of the features and amenities that I want from a car, but old enough to forego the bloat and fluff that so many modern BMWs and other manufacturers are starting to get. It's an all-rounder, as a 3 Series should be. Performance sedan, luxury car, great daily driver. There's a huge amount of value here for anyone seeking a BMW sports sedan that doesn't want to pay that recent price hike of the older cars. I love E46s. I've owned a couple of them, but given that E46s are on the rise and they're starting to be worth as much or more than equivalent E90s, even 335i's like this one, the equation starts to lean in favor of the E90 for me. At least as an everyday car, it is a really compelling package at a bottomed out price. A little bit of housekeeping before I go. I've actually made the move to doing this full time. So videography, content creation, the channel is going to be my focus now, essentially. And so it never has been before. The videos that you've seen, the content that I've put up has been pretty inconsistent, and that's just because I was doing it while I was working a full-time job. So you're going to be seeing a lot more consistent stuff, going as far beyond what I've done before as humanly possible. As far as I can manage. And so I've actually created a Patreon for those of you that want to support what I do directly. I'd obviously really appreciate it if you want to do that, but otherwise just watching the videos, subscribing, maybe sharing it with your friends, that's more than I could ever even hope for. And I appreciate whatever you do. If you decide to do the Patreon, I'm going to be putting some behind the scenes stuff up there as I have time, try to do it every month, but really that is just a way for you to support the channel directly, if you'd like to. I'm really excited to kind of show you guys what I have in the works, and so stick around so you can see it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.